Hi there, my name's Alexandria, and this is the process of how I created an art piece from my past semester called Moon and Nicho. For those of you that are familiar with nichos, you know that they are miniaturized versions of altars that are common in Mexican culture, and they actually derived from early Renaissance culture, and they are sort of these pieces that can capture elements of something you want to pray to. And in this clip, what I'm doing is I'm gathering materials that I wanted to incorporate into the moon nicho. I knew for this project that I wanted to incorporate different elements that were connected to my personal art practice, although this piece was a project for school. It was important for me to tie it in some way to my personal art practice, which had been developing through the use of natural elements such as dried flowers, living flowers, rocks, shells, and different things. And I wanted to also incorporate watercolor because that's one of my most primarily used mediums. So here I'm just sort of gathering all of these bits and elements that I want to add into this piece. And I end up using air dried clay to make the nicho. I had also gone to a store here in the East Bay called the East Bay Reuse Store to pick up some beads, yarn, and other bits and pieces like lace. And I didn't end up using everything in this piece, but I wanted to have a lot of inspiration and different bits that I could use if I wanted to. As you can probably tell in this moment, I'm contemplating what my next step is. I don't always know what I'm going to do when I enter my creative time. It is a very intuitive process for me when I'm approaching a different piece or subject. I sometimes like to have structure, but in this piece, I really wanted the freedom to flow with whatever objects were around me. In some capacity, I knew certain things were going to be done. I knew I was going to make a nicho. I knew I was going to incorporate certain bits like beads, flowers, watercolor painting of the eyes there on the desk, and some other things, but I didn't really know exactly how it was going to come out. So I'm sort of just piling all of these pieces together, and then I'm going to add them all to the clay. So at this point, I've gathered the clay, I've sort of molded it a little bit with my hands to warm it up, and I started incorporating some of these bits and pieces. So I have rocks, pieces of the watercolor painting, rose petals, beads, different types of textiles, some that have glitter on them from like butterfly angel wings that I had gotten at a local store, just different that I thought would all embody and incorporate the whimsical nature of my personal art practice. I also used a rolling pin to roll it out, so within the clay contains all of these bits and pieces. Then, once I rolled it out, I made a circle because I wanted it to resemble the shape of the moon, obviously, a circle. And here I'm just making the edges that I want to sit around the circular frame of the nicho. I initially wanted to have it be able to hold a candle, but I realized that I actually would not be able to have a candle in it because the depth was pretty shallow for the shelf part of it, but also because of the materials. Like I have cotton flower paper and things that were highly flammable. So I just decided that I would make it as is and it would just hold the energy it needed as is without a flame. There were times where I tried to add other pieces of things, like that shiny plastic bit over there, and I decide against these things. It's really just spur of the moment how I decide to add or take away. I did also add dried seeds, and I'm sort of just shaping the edge with strings of beads to make it sort of look like the moon is crying or raining drops of tears. This is one of the last steps of this piece. After I finished putting all of the little strings with beads on it, I let it air dry for 24 hours before presenting it to my class, and I'd say overall it was a success. I absolutely love this piece. I think it's very darling and very precious to me. I keep it on my altar as an actual nicho, and it was very fun to make. In my blog post, you can see more details about this piece as well as all of the materials that were incorporated into it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to sharing more with you next time. Bye.